I won $8.7 million in the lottery and my family has no idea. Well, they didn't until I decided to tell them. And when I finally revealed my secret, I made sure they understood one thing perfectly. They weren't getting a single cent. You might think I'm cruel, heartless even. But when you've spent your entire life being treated like a human ATM by people who are supposed to love you, you learn that blood doesn't always mean family. This is my story and I don't regret a single decision I made. Growing up in suburban Ohio, I learned early that love in our household came with conditions. My mother ruled our home like a matriarch from a twisted fairy. Tale where affection was currency in Miss Eyster. Emma was the golden investment. Father played his role perfectly, nodding along, enabling every toxic pattern that made our family dysfunction feel normal. Emma was 3 years younger than me, but you'd think she was royalty. Her bedroom was bigger, her birthday parties more elaborate, her mistakes always forgiven with a smile. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the dependable one, the one who would figure it out. That's what I was for. I worked 2 jobs through college while Emma partied through state school on my parents' dime. When I graduated with honors and landed a marketing job, my mother's first response wasn't congratulations. It was asking if I could help with Emma's credit card debt, $15,000 she'd racked up on clothes and Miami trips with her sorority sisters. I was 23, barely established, and already positioned as the family safety net. But I paid it because that's what good daughters do, right? Then came the car payment when Emma totaled her Honda texting while driving. I co-signed for her new SUV because her credit was destroyed. Then rent for her first apartment when she couldn't hold down a job. Then bail money for her boyfriend. The requests never stopped. Every Thanksgiving dinner ended with my mother pulling me aside, her hand on my arm, voice dropping to that syrupy tone that meant she wanted something. Every Christmas involved my father awkwardly, mentioning Emma was struggling again. Sunday dinners became tactical operations where I'd mentally prepare for whatever new financial crisis had emerged. My mother had this way of serving pot roast and guilt in equal measures, passing mashed potatoes while mentioning that family takes care of family, that Emma just needed help getting on her feet, that surely I understood how hard it was for young people these days. I wanted to scream that it had been hard for me too, that I'd eaten ramen for months to make rent, that I'd worked overnight shifts while maintaining full course loads, that I'd sacrificed and struggled and clawed my way to stability without anyone offering me a bailout. But I stayed silent because conflict meant being labeled dramatic, ungrateful, selfish. By age 29, I'd given my family over $60,000 earned through my own hard work, handed over piece by piece, guilt trip by guilt trip. And not once had I received a genuine thank you. Not once had anyone asked how I was doing financially, if I could afford it, if I needed help. I was the family ATM, and they were making withdrawals without checking the balance. It was a Tuesday evening in March when everything changed. I stopped at a gas station on my way home, one of those forgettable stops for coffee. The Powerball jackpot had been climbing for weeks, rolling over to $200 million. I never played the lottery. Thought it was a waste, but something made me buy a ticket that day. Maybe exhaustion, maybe cosmic timing. I checked the numbers 3 days later during my lunch break, sitting in my car in the office parking lot. My hands started shaking before my brain processed what I was seeing. All 6 numbers matched perfectly. After taxes and the lump sum payment, I'd won approximately $8.7 million. I sat there for 45 minutes unable to move. My first instinct, bred from 29 years of conditioning, was to call my mother. The phone was in my hand, her contact pulled up, my finger hovering over the call button. But then I stopped and I really thought about what would happen. I imagined my mother's voice, the initial excitement. Then within minutes, the calculations would start. Emma needs a house. Emma needs a car. Emma needs her student loans paid off. Your father and I should retire early. You owe us this. And suddenly my miracle would become their entitlement. So I didn't call. Instead, I researched lottery attorneys and made an appointment for the next day. My lawyer, Patricia, specialized in sudden wealth management. She told me something I'll never forget. Most lottery winners who go broke don't lose money to bad investments. They lose it to family and friends who feel entitled to it. She advised me to tell no one for at least 6 months to observe how people treated me without money being a factor. So, I went into observation mode. I kept working, kept living in my modest apartment, kept driving my 7-year-old Toyota. To everyone around me, nothing had changed, but everything had changed for me. I was watching my family through a different lens. Now, at my mother's birthday dinner in April, she cornered me near the dessert table to mention Emma was struggling with rent again. She delivered her speech with practiced ease about family sacrifice and helping each other. I gave her $200 and watched how quickly the warm smile appeared, how the conversation ended once the transaction was complete. Emma got engaged in May to a guy she'd been dating for 4 months. The engagement party was at my parents' house, all paid for by them. Emma pulled me aside, champagne in hand, and asked if I'd contribute to the wedding, $5,000, like it was nothing. When I hesitated, she rolled her eyes and said we'd talk later, then bounced back to her friends. Thanksgiving was the real test. My mother made her famous turkey and used the occasion to orchestrate emotional manipulation. She gave a toast about family being the greatest blessing, about supporting each other, her eyes landing meaningfully on me. Emma chimed in about how she couldn't wait to buy a house someday, if only she could afford a down payment. Everyone laughed knowingly. I smiled. I ate my turkey, and I watched them like a scientist observing specimens. The more I observed, the clearer it became. My family didn't love me. They loved what I provided. Telling them would be the worst mistake of my life. So I stayed silent and I planned. The phone call came on a cold January morning, 9 months after my win. My mother's voice was trembling, weak, nothing like her usual commanding tone. She'd been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She needed surgery immediately. Insurance wasn't covering everything. She needed $30,000 for treatments. She was dying and she needed my help. My heart dropped. Every instinct screamed to help to transfer money immediately. But something felt off. Maybe the 9 months of observation had sharpened my instincts. Maybe it was the convenient round number mentioned before diagnosis details. I told her I'd call back. Then I did something that felt terrible, but necessary. I called her doctor's office, explained I was her daughter, that she'd told me about a cancer diagnosis. The receptionist was confused. She put me on hold, came back, and gently told me my mother had been in for a routine checkup 2 weeks ago. Everything was fine. No cancer, no diagnosis, no surgery scheduled. My mother had lied about having cancer to extort money from him. I sat with that information for 3 hours, feeling every emotion cycle through. Disbelief, rage, grief, finally clarity. This was who she was. I was done. I called her back. My voice was steady, calm, almost cold. I told her I'd spoken with her doctor. I knew there was no cancer. The silence was deafening. Then came tears, backtracking. The new story. She'd been confused, misunderstood the doctor, was worried about medical bills in general. I was being cruel to fact-check my own mother. I told her I wouldn't be giving her money anymore for anything ever. The ATM was permanently closed. She cried, then got angry. How dare I accuse her of lying? How dare I abandon family? My father got on the phone asking why I had to make everything difficult, why I couldn't just help out, why I wastering the family apart. I hung up. Didn't answer when they called back 17 times that day. 3 weeks later, Emma texted. She wanted coffee. Just us, sister to sister. Against better judgment, I agreed. We met at Starbucks. She ordered an expensive latte and pastry. Didn't offer to pay for mine. Then she got to the point. She and her fiancé wanted to buy a house. They needed help with the down payment, $200,000. She said it casually, like asking to borrow a sweater. I'd always been good with money. I must have savings. It would mean so much. She promised they'd pay me back, though we both knew that was a lie. I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. At 26, she'd never held a job for more than a year, never paid her own bills, never apologized for the money I'd given her. And here she sat asking for $200,000 like it was reasonable. I said, no, just no. Her face transformed. The sweet act vanished, replaced by pure entitlement. She told me I was selfish, that I'd always had it easier, that I'd always been mom and dad's favorite, which was absurd. She said I was jealous of her engagement, of her happiness, that I was bitter and lonely. I let her finish. Then I stood up, left $20 on the table, and walked out. 2 days later, my parents called a family meeting. Emergency. Almost didn't go, but curiosity won. I walked into my childhood home to find an intervention-style setup, mother and father on the couch, Emma in the armchair, all looking disappointed and determined. My mother started. I was tearing the family apart, being selfish and cruel. Emma just wanted help, and I was refusing out of spite. They'd raised me better. Family helps family. My father talked about sacrifice, about how they'd always been there for me. Emma sat crying, playing victim perfectly. I listened to the whole performance. Then I asked how much money I'd given this family. Nobody answered. So I told them $63,000. And what had they given me? Not money, but support, acknowledgement, genuine love without conditions, silence. My mother played her final card. If I wouldn't help my sister, if I wouldn't be part of this family properly, then maybe I wasn't their daughter at all. Something inside me broke free. I smiled and I said, "Fine. If that's the condition of being your daughter, then I'm not your daughter." The room exploded, but I felt nothing except relief. I let them yell for 5 minutes. Then I said 7 words that changed everything. I won $8.7 million. The room went silent. My mother spoke first, asking me to repeat it, so I did. I'd won the lottery 10 months ago. I'd kept it secret deliberately. I'd watched them, tested them, and they'd failed spectacularly. Emma's face went from confusion to calculation in seconds. She started talking immediately, laughing nervously, saying this was wonderful news, that of course this changed everything. She started listing amounts, the down payment, the wedding, furniture, a new car, maybe a monthly allowance. My mother joined in, tears suddenly gone, retirement, medical bills for the future, the lake house they'd always dreamed about. This was meant to be. God had blessed our family. My father nodded along, already calculating his wish list. I let them talk. I let them reveal exactly who they were. Then I told them the truth. I wasn't sharing any of it, not $1. The money was mine. And after watching how they treated me for 10 months, after the fake cancer diagnosis, after Emma's entitled demands, after a lifetime of being used, they'd proven they didn't deserve access to my success. The reaction was volcanic. My mother screamed the money belonged to the family, that I had amoral obligation, that I was ungrateful and selfish. Emma called me every name she could think of, said she hoped I'd be alone with my money. My father tried guilt, talking about sacrifices raising me, the roof over my head, as if basic parenting was a debt I owed with interest. I stood up, told them they'd never hear from me again, and walked out. My phone started ringing before I reached my car. Texts poured in, dozens of them, ranging from apologetic to threatening. I blocked all 3, but they didn't stop. Extended family started calling. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, all suddenly concerned about family unity. The flying monkeys were out in force. I blocked them all. Then I called Patricia. Within 48 hours, cease and desist letters were sent. I changed my phone number, email, deactivated social media. My mother escalated. She showed up at my apartment, banging on doors, causing scenes. She left notes calling me evil, ungrateful, cursed. I filed for a restraining order. The judge granted it immediately. I moved to a different city 3 months later. I worked with my financial team to ensure my estate plan was ironclad. If anything happened to him, my money would go to charities. My biological family was explicitly excluded. But here's what I did with the money that really matters. I set up an anonymous scholarship fund for first-generation college students working multiple jobs. I paid off medical debt for 3 families drowning in bills from genuine health crisis. I helped a single my mother afford a security deposit on a safe apartment. I donated to domestic violence shelters, food banks, literacy programs. I helped people who actually needed help, who were grateful, who didn't feel entitled. The money did incredible good, just not for people who thought they deserved it by sharing my DNA. A year has passed. I have no relationship with my biological family. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes conditioning runs deep. But then I remember the fake cancer. I remember Emma's entitlement. I remember 30 years of being valued only for what I could provide. And the guilt fades. I've built a new life surrounded by people who love me for me. I wake up without dread. I answer my phone without anxiety. The money didn't buy my happiness. The boundaries did. If you've dealt with toxic family or struggled with boundaries, share your story in the comments. What would you have done? Subscribe for more real-life stories about family drama and finding your own path. Remember, your peace matters more than their expectations.